Hello, now I'm going to talk a little bit about refactoring and explain to you what is refactoring and then point you to where to read about it and learn a bit about it. And at least I think it's important to read some code. Okay, this includes also the demo, the videos I prepared on a refactoring where I introduced the visitor on existing code. So, but I think that refactoring is probably one of the most nice results in terms of software engineering of the last years. Okay. Why? Well, basically because it changes the way. So it's this idea of facing change is something completely new. Okay, I'm gonna stop. Sorry, it's just a moment. Okay, I've come back. So this is something new in the way you look at software because you have this idea that software, the cost of development is related with the age of the software. And this idea is a bit an old idea, and it is strongly related with this thing that you have two life cycles, at least two life cycles in the development of a system. You have basically the development life, in the life of the system. You have a development life cycle, so a period where it's development, and then we have maintenance. And in maintenance, basically, you do small changes. You just do small changes to it. And so, and this idea of basically two perspectives of software. When you are developing, people are involved in it. You have a lot of people, and when you are maintaining the system, basically, just a couple of guys is there doing small changes. And actually, in reality, real products today, actually, you don't distinguish between development and maintenance. Basically, you keep developing the software because, you know, P systems, E systems, if the software is really interesting, it's going to be changed. Every day there are new requirements to change the software. So you keep changing it. And so the only way you have in order to constantly improve the quality is by doing refactorings. And what is the idea of doing refactorings? Is that when you develop, you are basically doing two different things. Either you are implementing functionality or you are changing the structure, and you don't do these things at the same time. If you change structure, you just keep the functionality, and basically what you do is you change the structure, keeping the functionality. Okay, so we improve the structure. So what you are doing, button-up design, you introduce abstractions for that functionality. How can you be sure that you preserve the functionality? Because you have tests. So you have your test suite, and you just run it, and you check that everything things that do not change. And what you learn about refactoring is things about small steps. So it's keeping changing things small, doing small steps. So the idea, if you want to refactor from A to B, actually do small changes. You introduce code. Sometimes you introduce code that is there just to allow you to do this stepwise. So there are several rules about refactoring. One of the rules is that only at the end you remove the code that you want to change. Why? Because they should be there that allow you to keep running the code. So basically what you do is just you add code, and as you keep adding code, in some point, the old code becomes obsolete, and then you remove it. But, okay, so if you have a program running, and if you want to do some change, and the wrong way to do it is, oh, okay, I need to change this code. Remove the code that you want to change and start writing the new code. This is completely wrong, because then you just lose your fit. Okay, and basically, what's going to happen, you don't know. So if the code is running or not. So keep the code running and define these small steps. So what you need to read The first thing is that they have this big case, which is the first chapter of the book by Martin Fowler on refactoring. Is a very nice book. There are a second version. This is the first chapter of the first edition. Okay, and basically is a refactoring of a rental of movies. Okay, so and what is interesting in this refactoring is that what actually they do. You see this code? Okay, this is in C Sharp or C++, I guess here. Okay, C++, but we'll have versions in Java as well, and a version in JavaScript in the new. I will show you the new in JavaScript. But the idea is the same. Look, this is not object oriented. It's a big procedure, and sometimes it's interesting to write the code this way. Why? Because actually you are writing the algorithm and you can understand it. You remember about what I talk about cohesion in object orientation and cohesion in procedural or functional. So this is cohesion in terms of functional in sense. Well, all the code that implements the statement for the client is done here. So I can read it here. But it's not so good to maintain. So, and to maintain is just to move it to the right objects. Okay, so you do the refactoring and you keep refactoring this code. So it gives you even another way to think. Sometimes you just let's focus on functionality, and you write the code in a way that is not nice from the object-oriented point of view, but is nice because actually all the functionality is there, you don't get it wrong, and you can sync it. And then you start refactoring while the functionality, when you achieve the functionality. And why it is nicer then? Because then the test is there to say, oh, okay, the functionality keeps working, okay? So you can do it. So read this case study, and this case study has very nice things about insights about performance as well, and the impact of performance and measuring performance and doing profiling. Because actually what is going to happen is that you're going to make it more inefficient. Okay, so more usable, more maintainable, or more maintainable, and more inefficient. And then it's what I already told you about profiling. You need to profile and to run profiles and see if this inefficiency is really something that is going to damage your the execution of your system or not. Okay, so optimize only when it is needed. Okay, so because the code should be readable and easy to maintain and so on. So we have this case. We'll have another case here that actually is the same one in JavaScript. It's a bit more complex because then it describes more situations, but if you read it, actually you have the same functionality here. Okay, but now it's in JavaScript, the function statement. So it's basically the same case, but now in JavaScript. You can read it both ways or it both, and you can see. But the refactorings are the same. So this idea of decoupling these into moving the code into a more object-oriented perspective. Okay. And in this, the idea of reading this is to understand what are refactorings, and as well to understand when do you do refactoring, the different types of refactoring. I think is in the last one long. So you have here. So you can do refactoring for several reasons. Okay, just because you want to make the code more easy to read, or you just find something that is not nice, or okay, you can even have a long-term refactoring where you see that the architecture of your code is not okay and you need to change it, and then you plan that every time you do something. But the idea is that you don't gonna do it at once. You just define a plan, and while you are working, you keep changing the code. So the message about code is it's always possible to improve the code. Okay, it's always possible. And When are you going to do it? Oh, it's a economics decision in the sense that you have things to do, and it's just to balance when to improve the code while you introduce functionality, and have a smooth way of balancing this, of dealing with these, introducing more functionality, improving the code. This is the heart of developing software. Okay, this is what is nice. Is I have something to do. How can I manage these that I have to do in the context of my project so that I can increase the functionality, but at the same time keep improving my code. Okay, I think this is one of the nicest parts of this course. Okay, on software engineering. Please read it, enjoy, and I hope that we'll do a lot of refactorings in your professional life. Okay, good. Enjoy.